Hello and welcome to this very special conversation. There are very few people who, when they go away or pass away, leave such a void that this is not just possible to fill. And they leave so many people, not just their close ones, but people who they have touched through their work. They just leave them so sad and shocked. One such man was Irfan Khan, sorry. And today I hold this book in my hand by Shubhra Gupta. Obviously, we could never get enough of Irfan. This book tries to give us some more of him. Joining me today is Shubhra Gupta, the author herself, and very special guest, Sutapa Sikdar, wife of Irfan Khan. So Shubhra, first to you. Let's talk about the book. How did it start?
It started because my friend Mimi, who's also the literary agent on the book, she reached out to me very soon after Irfan very sadly passed away and asked whether I would like to be working on a book on Irfan, and I said that there are already so many books out on him, so why should we do another one? And she said, she said to me that this would be a book from the perspective of a long-time film critic who's been looking at his work for a long time. From television, in fact, to cinema, and I thought about it, and then I figured that this really is a void that someone must fill, and yes, I said fine, I will
Great.
work on it. Yeah.
So basically, you have interviewed a whole lot of people. I think 40 of them for this book. Around there. So it must be a long, winding, taxing process. I mean, did you meet everyone personally, or?
No, actually, this was during lockdown, when all of us were sitting at home during COVID, and I mean, you can call it being fortunate or call it the time that it was. I think it was really a time out of time when we didn't know what to do with ourselves, when we were all locked down, and this really sad occurrence happened. Irfan's passing was not something that it was not as if we didn't know that he was struggling with a debilitating illness, but we all hoped, I think, somewhere hoped that he would, overcome this. But when it happened, and when I think that part of that grief was what we were feeling when the lockdown happened, and so most of the people I reached out to, almost all of them said yes to me, and they were all across a screen from me because I spoke to them not in person. Nobody could go out of their homes, forget about traveling to another city. So they were all in their homes, they were all in between things, so they were generous enough to give me their time, and they shared their thoughts and their innermost feelings. So yeah.
So of all these people who obviously had known Irfan very well, had worked with him and collaborated with him, so who were the people that surprised you the most, or gave you the most emotional content for the book?
Emotional content. Okay, I think everybody was very moved and very saddened by his passing. But I think in my conversations with both Vishal Bhardwaj, who kept me waiting for months, and I think Homi Ajania, who was the director of the film that he was shooting when he was unwell, both of them were visibly overcome during the interview, and both said how difficult it was for them to actually have this conversation. In fact, Vishal kept me waiting not because of any other reason, but he said that he was finding it really difficult to talk about Irfan's passing because for obvious reason that they were very close, and he was still finding it really difficult to use the past tense for an actor that he loved and admired.
Come back to you for one more thing, but Sutapa, it's been over 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's difficult to come to terms with it, but now has life moved on?
Life moves on because the clock goes on.
Yeah.
You can't stop time, right? So whether I like it, don't like it, the calendar changes, the pages of the calendar change. So in that way, life has to move on. Whether I have moved on or not, I'm not so sure. Sometimes I try this effort to move on. Sometimes I again go to step backwards. That's how it is.
Okay. So let me ask you, we've seen Irfan on screen. So we got to see Ranvijay and Hasil, we got to see Maqbool, we got to see Pan Singh Tomar, we got to see Ashok Ganguly, and the list goes on. But you have lived with Irfan. You knew Irfan, right? So, of all these characters, who would you say was closest to Irfan, or was more of Irfan, or Irfan was totally different?
You know, I will take a very name of a film which is not so celebrated. It's called Karma. I would see Karma's character which Irfan played is closest to Irfan.
Oh, lovely. So, one more thing, that obviously Irfan, the way he portrayed his characters, he was the character. I mean, we never saw Irfan there. We saw a life and blood character, living and breathing character on the screen. So, when he came back, did you ever feel that the character has come back and not Irfan? And you during the course of that movie making or shooting, you were living with that character or not the Irfan you knew?
You know, there was a continuous process which like I would rather say in NSD I lived with the character more. He then in the passage of time he could kind of distinguish between a character and personality. So I don't think he generally came home with the same character. It was in his own space, he was that character, even in his, at home in his room, but not with us. Like he would suddenly not start behaving like that character, no.
Okay, one, if you don't mind, a personal touch a bit, that you obviously sacrificed your own career and ambitions because so that Irfan could become what Irfan became and he could fly. And I remember Babil talking about it in an interview that Baba was Baba because Mama was Mama. So did you ever feel that any regret, or you just took it in your stride and decided to be that way?
You know, I have no regrets whatsoever. But, and Babil puts it because he loves me so much. So he sees it, my mother could have been so successful. And for them success is, sab paper mein interviews aa rahe hain. You know, you are like famous in that way. I feel I'm very successful. You know, I'm very successful as a family maker, as a support system to something which was actually creative at home. Our home was a creative buzz. So why do I need to prove that Sutapa has to be known as Sutapa? I didn't have that urge always, you know. I'm not the ambitious types at all. But I never felt that I am like, you know, I am forced to, it was my choice. I was forced, then I will feel that, oh my God, you know, stifled. I managed and I loved it. I loved reading Irfan's scripts. And he wouldn't also not read it. You know, कि पहले तुम पढ़ लो सारे. फिर मैं पढ़ के, I loved that. Every day some new writer has written in some new nuance. I enjoyed that process.
Lovely. So Shubhra, in the end, you've written this book. You have spoken to so many people who've known Irfan so closely, along with Sutapa. So now, how would you describe Irfan? I mean, did you know him personally first?
I've only met him a couple of times, and that too very briefly, once on a set long back. While he was shooting here in Delhi, and I happened to be where he was, and it was just a brief greeting and a hello. And after that, some years later at a film festival the post film festival party kind of thing, where I spent a few minutes with him, but no, I didn't know him beyond that at all. I knew him.
So after writing this thick book on Irfan, if I ask you to kind of describe him for our viewers in a sentence or two, what would you say?
I would say that he was the kind of actor who not just me actually, I will dial back on what I've just said. I think we really liked to watch him, loved watching Irfan because he had the capacity to surprise us. As a long time film critic, I mean somebody who's been doing this for such a long time, I feel that unless an actor or a performer has something new in their arsenal, they end up repeating themselves, and then it becomes a chore, not just for the actor to do what he's doing, but for the audience to see the same thing. Irfan was one of the few people that I encountered in my cinematic the viewing of cinema journey, who had the capacity to surprise me. I looked forward to every performance that he did. Yeah.
Exactly, we looked forward to every performance that Irfan came up with, and sadly he's not with us, but he has left a body of work that will be celebrated for generations. And in the end, I can only say that we are lucky that we lived in the era that Irfan acted. Thank you, both of you.